Hello everyone, it's Dylan from Yugioh Everything, and welcome back to another Yugioh VRains ending analysis video, an in-depth analysis video breakdown, whatever you want to title it. But I will be breaking down the new ending that we got about a week and a half ago of Yugioh VRains, Writing Life by Goodbye Holiday. I'll be breaking down all of these little Easter eggs and references we got, and as you can tell by the thumbnail, we actually got two really awesome Easter eggs and odes to the previous shows, Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds and Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal, along with some other minor things that I want to discuss with you guys and give my thoughts on. I was going to do this last weekend, but I've been kind of very busy, very busy with schoolwork, so I do apologize this video was a little delayed. But without further ado, let's get into it, an in-depth breakdown of the second ending. And before I begin, a lot of the stuff that I'm going to be talking about was pointed out to me, not directly, but was pointed out to me by a user known as J_BYYX. This is someone who I personally believe is one of the greatest in our community at analytically breaking down things that happen in each episode. He's always the person I go to for like Nico statistics. He's very intelligent when it comes to just different aspects of the community and different references that are made in the episodes, in the endings and openings like this. So there were a couple of things that I completely missed upon watching this ending, 20, 30, probably like 50 times by now, that he pointed out. So I will link his Twitter down below, because a few of the stuff that I'll be going over was really pointed out by him, and I do want to thank him for that. And again, I do think he is one of the most intelligent people in the community, so definitely give him some love and check out his Twitter page for some really cool references and some really cool just facts and analytical stuff. So anyway, let's begin. Without further ado, I want to start right away with the thumbnails, or what's in the thumbnail. The first thing we see is a graffiti tunnel where Yusaku is kind of kneeling down, and you see the light at the end of the tunnel. So I kind of like how they have that little phrase in there. Obviously there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. Things will always get better, and Yusaku has said before that he's trying to get back his light to the future. So already you kind of have some symbolism there. And on the ground, Yusaku's shadow, which I think this is interesting, and it was actually one of the first things I noticed when I live reacted to this ending, is Ignis. It's his AI. And I just wonder if that maybe is hinting at Yusaku being closely related to this AI, more closely than meets the surface. Because a few people have speculated that Yusaku is this Ignis, that Yusaku is this AI, and that the Ignises that we saw in the very beginning of the show represent the AI forms, or the Ignis forms, of the main characters, which is an interesting theory. It's one that I don't really necessarily agree with, but it's interesting, and it's just interesting that his shadow is Ignis, because obviously your shadow is supposed to represent who you are. I mean, it's your shadow, and they clearly depict it being Ignis in this opening, so I think that is very interesting. But moreover than that, there's a lot that's going on in this scene, and before we move on to the next scene, two of the coolest Easter eggs that we have seen so far, and I noticed the synchro one. I think this is the one that really got the most attention out of the two. As you can see on the left side of this tunnel, the words synchro are written in graffiti, and obviously this is a reference to Synchro Monsters. This is a reference to the main summoning method in Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds, and this should not be a surprise, because Katsumi Ono, who wrote most of 5Ds, and he wrote Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5, we have not heard anything from him since Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5 came to an end, and obviously he came under a lot of criticism from probably 90% of the community. He actually was the storyboard artist, if I'm correct there. I know he was part of this. I don't know if he was the storyboard artist, but I'm pretty sure he was, for this ending. So Katsumi Ono worked on this ending, and of course he couldn't let this ending go by without putting in a reference to his beloved 5Ds. He is almost kind of disgustingly obsessed with that show. I mean, I love Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds, so I don't mind it. He can, I guess, show off all he wants with the show, and writing synchro and graffiti I think is actually hilarious. We also have some other words written. We have vengeance written on the right side in very big letters. And another great Easter egg, and this is one that definitely did not make as much news as the synchro one did, because I just don't think it was found out. The only person actually that I even saw, I completely missed this, and I never would have seen this, and the only person that I saw even mention this was this J_BYYX user, who noticed that in the top left we see the words shining draw, which is a clear clear reference, just like Synchro is to 5Ds, to Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal. Yuma, in his Zexal form with Astral, performed Shining Draws. There's just no way you can even twist these two. Synchro is clearly an Easter egg to Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds, and Shining Draw is clearly an Easter egg and reference to Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal. The amount of Easter eggs, the amount of references we have seen in Yu-Gi-Oh! VRains thus far to older shows has been really, really cool. And there's a lot of rumors right now. Will we see another summoning method beside Links? Will we see legacy characters like we did in Arc 5? I think if either one of those are going to happen, summoning methods are probably more likely, and I'd love to see more summoning methods beside Links, especially because I have heard, and I was going to do a video on it, but it's not really my forte, I have heard that the card game is not really selling well. Sales have been down since September of 2016. They've been down actually pretty significantly from what I've heard, and I think this show, if you incorporate other summoning methods, can show how I know a lot of people have maybe quit on Yu-Gi-Oh! Because of link formats, but maybe if you have other summoning methods, you can show users and you can show players how to effectively construct a deck and utilize a deck and give more support for pendulum monsters, for Xyz monsters, for synchro monsters, for fusion rituals in this new link format. And so I think it would be good for the card game too if they maybe start incorporating other methods in the show. We had an Xyz monster show up in the very first episode, but remember, we had a tuner show up in the first episode of Zexal. We got no synchros in that show. And I think we even had a synchro monster. We did have a synchro monster in the trailer for Zexal, and we had no synchros again throughout Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal. So just because we had an Xyz monster in the very beginning of Yu-Gi-Oh! VRains, and just because we have synchro graffitied in the tunnel, it really does not mean anything. It does not mean that we're definitely, oh my god, synchros are confirmed. Now, it doesn't mean that, unfortunately. As much as I'd love to tell you guys, I'm 100% sure we will see synchros. I really just don't know if we'll see other summoning methods, but a lot of really, really cool Easter eggs and references in this very, very opening scene of the second ending. But we are going to move on. We are going to move on to the next scene. We see Yusaku stand up and everything kind of changes. It shifts, and we have new scenery. We have the Atlas statue, and I didn't know what statue this was, and a bunch of you people pointed this out to me, and I actually have seen this statue with my own eyes. I live right next to New York, and the Atlas statue is located in New York, and where it is, I know I've been to the area where it is before, so I have seen this statue in real life before, which is actually really, really awesome. And the thing with Atlas is the whole lore around him is he's carrying the weight of the world on his back, which, again, is very, very, the first 25, 30 seconds of this ending, and we already have a crazy amount of symbolism. The symbolicness there, that Playmaker is carrying the weight of the world on his back, which he absolutely is. And the lyrics at this point are pretty interesting, too. It's, I'm glad that I'm alive, I truly am. Because if you take a step back and you think about it, you wonder if Yusaku even wants to be alive. And I know that's a very dark thing to say, but you think about the kind of person that he is, just completely obsessed with vengeance and revenge, which is understandable, even though we're starting to see more kind of humanity traits from him, like when he saved Emma. And I think the journey that he's going to go through, and by the end of the show, he'll probably be this more rounded, more Yusei-like character, which I think is going to be really cool to see him get to that point. You just wonder if maybe he regrets even being alive at this point. And again, I know that's very dark, but given how horrible his childhood was and how he says he has no future and he has no friends to talk about the future with, he says things that if people said them in the real world to me, I would see those as huge red flags. And I'm sure you guys know the red flags that I'm talking about. So he's a guy that's under just so much duress, so much stress, and to have the Atlas statue here, which again symbolizes carrying the weight of the world on your back, and to have the lyrics, I'm glad that I'm alive, I truly am, it's a very hopeful and yet realistic take on what's going on in Yu-Gi-Oh! VRains. So I really, really do love that, and the fact that I've seen this statue with my own two eyes in the real world is really awesome. Then we get a really cool change to the virtual reality to Link VRains, and we see Kusanagi, and I guess the weight of the world, that can kind of refer to these two as well. Kusanagi's younger brother, we assume, is on the right, and we see Kusanagi on the left, even though there still are some people that are convinced the character on the right is Kusanagi just when he was younger, but I don't see how people still believe that, to be honest. I mean, I guess it could be the case. You can't rule out anything, but I think it's pretty safe to say, and most of the community would agree, that this is Kusanagi's brother on the right. So we are getting close to the moment where we see Kusanagi's brother in this show, and I am very, very excited for that. So definitely really, really cool symbolism there, and that's pretty much the best symbolism that we get, because then the next scene that we get is Revolver, it's Kogami, it's Spectre, the numbers in the background, 0101, that's just binary code, so it's kind of cool that they're like, when you think of hacking, you think of the 0-1 combinations, you think of binary. You also see a light with a bunch of different colors behind Kogami, and I wonder if this is the light that we will see when Kogami and Revolver drop the program into that huge tunnel. You wonder if maybe a light is going to come up from that tunnel, and that will kind of start to symbolize the beginning of the end of VRains, because they said this is going to destroy the entire cyber world. Even it's probably going to affect even things in reality too. So whatever happening, I feel like this light will be somewhat important. But we see Spectre, and Spectre's been gone for a while, so it's pretty safe to infer that he will be back and he still will have an important role. We see Revolver, and then again in the background, we see Kogami. These three have kind of been, on and off since the Revolver-Yusaku duel ended, so I'm excited to see more of them soon. Then we see a light coming down. We see pretty much all the relevant characters of VRains. We see Kusanagi, we see Go, we see Aoi, we see Akira, and we see Emma. The light goes into Yusaku's hands. He grabs it, and again, this is the light, just like the light at the end of the tunnel that we saw in the beginning. This is basically the light to Yusaku's future. We then see him hoverboarding with Decode Talker over the highway where he most likely dueled Emma. And then one of my favorite parts, and this was pointed out by someone in my comment section, I'll try to find him and put him or her, and put their comment up on screen right now, but the lyrics here when they show Go and his ace, Emma and her ace, and Aoi and Blue Angel are very interesting, because it's people I meet, and then you see Go and his ace. Then it's my regrets, and you see Emma and her ace, and then you see, they're all like ultramarine diamonds to me, and ultramarine diamonds, you think of something very pretty, something very precious, something very rare, and that's when we see Aoi holding a book. I imagine it's just a book for school, because whenever we see her in that uniform, she's pretty much in class, and then her Blue Angel counterpart. And I also think it's very interesting that we have Go and his ace, we have Emma and her ace, and we have Aoi and her counterpart, and that to me symbolizes that most of Go's problems are going to be through dueling. They're going to be solved through dueling. That's going to be his main, conflict, I guess, resource, you can say, along with Emma. We're going to see their main issues through dueling, where Aoi's main issue is still going to be within herself, and that's why we don't see her with an ace. That's why we see her split personality, because her main issue is going to be deciding, who does she want to be? Does she want to be this, quiet girl, or does she want to be this, very happy Blue Angel who is dueling for either selfish reasons, which she said to Emma she only duels for selfish reasons, but that could kind of be a fake thing. And now we have Blue Angel who has saved thousands of people from another. I mean, I know 1,000 people probably weren't affected, but it would have gotten to that point eventually. So, Aoi's greatest struggles are going to be internal, while Go and Emma's are going to be solved through dueling and more external. And again, the my regrets line for Emma, you wonder if that is maybe hinting Emma is going to be a very betrayal, a very thorn in the side kind of character for Playmaker down the road, or the lyrics just don't mean anything. I mean, that's also very, very possible. And that's pretty much the end. We then see Playmaker sailing off into the distance with his two aces, Firewall Dragon and Decode Talker by his side, in a very serene, kind of beautiful ending. They're flying towards the sunset. A very beautiful way to end a very, very symbolic and a very strong. I love the lyrics. I love the song. I love the feels of this ending. A very strong second ending of Yu-Gi-Oh! VRains, which will hopefully, end a few very emotionally powerful episodes going forward for the next probably 20-25 episodes, the next long few months. And I'm glad we have an ending like this that is really, really symbolic and really symbolizes Yusaku and symbolizes a lot of different characters' emotions in Yu-Gi-Oh! VRains. So anyway, guys, I'm going to wrap things up right there. Please leave all your thoughts down below. I really hope you enjoyed my Yu-Gi-Oh! VRains Ending 2 analysis. I will talk to you down below. TGIF, thank God it's Friday. I hope you enjoy your weekend. And as always, thank you so much for the support. Have an amazing day.